Sound.
Hello, everyone. We're here. We're back.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing.
We're starting in a second. Believe it or not, we found some news to talk about.
Yeah.
Is it just me, or does it feel like nothing's happening in the world of tech
Well,
unless you're an
like,
Apple fan?
yeah, that August, September thing.
If you're a Microsoft fan, nothing is happening. We're not even getting a version released this year that has anything in it. It's like, come on.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, this computer just got like 25H2.
And nothing changed.
Yeah. Okay, I think I'm ready to go.
I'm recording.
I'm recording too. 3, 2, 1, clap. Welcome to the Windows Central Podcast, episode 379 for September 11th, 2025. Hey everyone, Dan Rubino here, joined with Zac Bowden for another exciting episode of the Windows Central Podcast. This week, we got all sorts of things to talk about, including, Windows 11 25H2 and how unexciting it is. Microsoft employees are being forced back to the office, which I guess is better than them getting fired, which is the other big news for Microsoft employees. Microsoft unbundles Teams from Office 365. Sad trombone. The EU and Slack have won. We'll discuss what that means and what the details are there. Outlook Lite is being killed, which if you didn't know what that was, that's okay. We'll explain what it is and why it's being killed. Surface Duo is 5 years old, which hurts my head just because it feels like 2 or 3 years ago, not 5. But it is 5, so we'll just kind of reminisce a little bit about it, how that was, in my opinion, the last real exciting time in technology that we've had. And then finally, two things we'll end on. Lenovo predicts total AI PC dominance within 5 years. That is, the majority of PCs sold will be AI PCs. We'll explain their reasoning and the whole, but what about killer apps thing? And then finally, we'll have some fun and discuss Apple's event this week and those interesting new iPhones and whether or not the Pro redesign is something, it's like it doesn't matter what we say. There's no way that phone is considered pretty or nice, but it doesn't matter because people are just going to buy it anyway. But anyways, we'll discuss and have some fun with that. Zach, how you doing on this fine Thursday?
I am not too bad. I'm kind of, we'll talk more about it later, but I'm going to erring on whether I should pre-order the new iPhone Air.
Are you kidding?
My brain tells me no, but my heart tells me yes.
All right, let's just do the iPhone thing and just get out of the way.
Okay, go then.
it's the most goofy part. So, right, they announced, to no one's surprise, iPhone 17, iPhone 17 Air, or just called the iPhone Air, and the iPhone 17 Pro, along with some new earbuds.
Mm-hmm.
And like people are making a big deal with the earbuds because it has live translation, which, don't get me wrong, is a cool feature. And for a select group of people out there, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be totally game changing. I can tell you, every time I've traveled, I've downloaded Microsoft Translator, Google Translator to my phones, downloaded the language pack offline use, all prepared to use it. I've never once used it. Now, that's just me. But this is a feature that people I keep hearing talk about, like how awesome it is. But I'm like, the majority of humans will never actually use this thing. It's cool, but come on. The iPhone 17 is the only thing you can say about the iPhone 17 is the price in value seems to be finally kind of there. But everybody's like giving them high fives because they finally made a 120 hertz display for the iPhone, for the basic iPhone, which is so pathetic. That everybody's like, oh, thank you. Even though like Pixels have had like 120 hertz displays for years now, right? But yeah, so I would say, but I see more people gushing over the iPhone 17 purely for the fact that, and what else? The camera got updated. They added the zoom camera, right? To it. Yeah, so they added a zoom camera to it. So between that and 120 hertz refresh, of course, new chips and, everything is better. But I see a lot of people excited about that. My partner, she has an iPhone 13. So actually going to the 17, she'll probably do the Pro though. But,
really?
that is like a value kind of phone now, the iPhone 17.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, you could argue, exceptionally well-rounded. So fine. And then you get the iPhone 17 Pro.
which is the
is
ugliest phone of this year.
I would say the last couple of years. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it is a thick, chonky boy, which, to be fair, people are fine with, and like because they're like, well, if it's going to give me all day battery life, I'm okay with it, and I agree with that, right? So, but it has got like these rounded edges. It feels pretty chonk. It has arguably the largest camera array I've ever seen on the back.
It's
It's just
terrible.
huge. To their credit, they didn't do that for design. It's because it has now a large 48 megapixel sensor, right? So, at least there's that. They didn't design it like that, like because we think this layout now looks beautiful. It's at least functional. Um, it's got an all new is it aluminum frame instead of titanium?
Yeah, they've gone
I
back to
think.
aluminum after 2 years of titanium, which, by the way, to remind everyone, when they first moved to titanium, they advertised it as being a big selling point and how it's better than aluminum. But now they've gone
Oh,
back.
don't forget, you always have to throw in the word aerospace aluminum. Otherwise, it's worthless aluminum.
Yeah,
But
it's
once
true.
you throw in the word aerospace, that sounds, I don't know,
Mm.
Zach, that sounds pretty important to me. That's an important alloy. So, but yeah, it's got a whole new frame. It's got the new processor, bigger cameras, supposedly better battery life. Am I missing anything else that's really?
Not really, yeah. Other than the ugly design, and I think they may have updated the telephoto lens on it, and they've given all of them a new front-facing camera, which is now using a square sensor, which I
Right.
don't think any other phone's doing. So this is actually quite
Yeah.
interesting. The front-facing camera on the phones now, you no longer have to turn them portrait landscape. You can just take a photo in any orientation, and because the sensor is square, it doesn't matter. It will just crop in depending on what orientation you were holding. So that's kind of cool, I guess.
And for
But yeah, for the
FaceTime users, and that's a big use of those phones is FaceTime. So now
yeah,
you'll get an even better FaceTime experience. So that's pretty cool. And it has that burnt orange color. So that you don't
I
know
don't
how
like it.
Apple works. It's pretty ingenious. They always release a couple normal colors. So in this case, they have a pale, like a dark blue, and
Hmm.
then I think there's like a silver
Yep.
version, no black. And then the third color option is this burnt orange color. And the reason they do this, every release, there's always one color that is just out there and
Yeah.
just looks wild. And it's just like, wow, okay. The reason they do that, it's for the people who want to prove to the world and show the world that they have the latest iPhone.
Yeah.
Because for so many years, they all look the same.
Hmm.
So the only way is like, but if you have like a new red one and it's only the red that's part of that generation, people know you, oh, you're a baller. You have the latest one. So it's a way to show off. Some people are considering it also like this, like it's a borderline collector's edition version because it's so different. Um, just for a second before I let Zach jump in here, um, this is supposed to be the first step in many steps of them redesigning all their hardware. So they started with the Pro. Of course, they introduced the Air, but we should see, like this redesign come to the iPhone 18 next year, and probably their laptops and their watches, right? So they said it's like a 5-year thing that they're going to be overhauling their hardware. Uh, and then, of course, iPhone Air, super thin phone, smaller battery, shocker, one camera on the back. And yeah, it's a bragging rights phone for those who want an extremely minimalist experience
Hell
and don't
yeah.
mind giving up features. It was funny. I was on Schwab TV yesterday and they were asking, so I was giving this spiel too. And they're like, well, tell me, Daniel, I have an iPhone right now. Is there anything here that's really game changing and worth updating for it? I'm like, no. 'Cause technically there isn't, right? Like there's nothing. Okay, it's got a new design, but new design doesn't really do anything for you, right? Outside it feels different. The Air, at least, if you've been yearning for a thinner, lighter phone with less features or fewer features, your day has arrived. You can pay now $1,000 to have less stuff in your phone. Now, to be fair, like Samsung did this too, right? So Samsung
Yeah.
did it with the S25 Edge. Um, and I don't know how that's selling, but it's like it's a weird thing that we're going like everybody's looking around like we're going super thin again.
Yeah, I
That's
think
the
I think it must have spawned from the fact that foldables are a thing, and to get foldables to be, slim enough when they're closed,
Yeah.
these companies had to engineer super thin devices in the first place.
That's what
And
Leo
so
Laporte told me. Yeah,
yeah,
on
I'm
Swiss
guessing
TV.
it's just
Yeah,
recycling that sort of R&D and going, we've done this for the
yeah,
foldable. Why don't we just make a super thin slab phone as well? Because I mean, that's
right.
what the edge is, and you compare it to the Galaxy Fold 7.
Fold. Yeah,
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, the edge is still thicker than the Fold 7, but foldables are still thinner than these slab phones. Like Apple's making a big deal about the iPhone Air being 5.6 millimeters, but it's still thicker than a Surface Duo from 5 years ago, and it's still thicker than a Galaxy Fold 7 when open, of course. So they're not
yeah,
like groundbreakingly incredible, like super thin, but for a slab phone, yeah, they're definitely on the lighter side of thickness.
yeah. I will say, as someone who isn't into the iPhone, obviously,
Hmm.
I still have my iPhone 13 mini, which even that I don't use anymore. Um, I could see the appeal for you and for me to get the Air
Yeah.
because we know 100% that probably wouldn't be our main phone.
Right, exactly. Because it couldn't. Because I've already done this with the Surface Duo in 2020. A phone with one camera, terrible battery life, questionable design choices. I've
Dude,
already done it. I can't do it again.
I'm just saying that's a good headline right there. It's a good story.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. So there's that issue. Related to that, and I was talking to my best friend about this last night. Like, this is the first year. So we got Pixel 10 just announced. We have the new iPhones just announced. You and I are both on the Z Fold 7. This is the first year I am not getting the Pixel 10, and I doubt I'm going to get an iPhone.
Mhm.
Like maybe the Air if I trade in some stuff, but like I'm not like really actively looking. But the
Yeah.
reason is, but I usually get iPhones for other reasons, right? But like and same with the Pixel. I would get the Pixel because the camera was just so much better than Samsung's. And like I liked using the Fold because ever since the Fold 5, and then I really liked the Fold 6 and now Fold 7. So Fold 7 for me is the game changer. Like when I was on Fold 6, I loved it. It was great. And then I got the S25 Ultra. And I was just like, you had that phone. Like
Yeah.
that phone is still arguably the best
Hmm.
single screen phone I've ever used. And I think I don't want Samsung to change a single thing on it. The display is ridiculous. Battery life is solid. Like, and the cameras were great. But once they were able to get those cameras into the Fold and get it thin,
Yeah.
then it's game over. All of a sudden now I'm like, I don't really need a Pixel because the Samsung cameras, all right, Pixels I would still say are better cameras, but they're good enough now on Samsungs where I don't feel like I need a Pixel and I don't feel like I need an iPhone. So I don't know how you feel about that, but it's like it's a big change for me who
Yeah.
normally carries multiple phones.
I have in past years always thought that I needed to have an iPhone in my backup pocket, just for those one or two instances where the iPhone does do a better job. But
Sure.
between Samsung and Pixel, I think most bases are covered now, unless you're locked into the Apple ecosystem or rely on something like iMessage or FaceTime. The need for an iPhone today is a lot less of a thing than it was, I would say, even 5 years ago. And that's mainly due to the Android OEM just getting better at Android. Like a lot of the Android skins these days
Yeah.
are good. Pixel OS is great. One UI is good now. Like it's not touch fizz
Yeah.
anymore. It's fine. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure iOS does certain things better and more fluid. And I know the
Maybe not the
quality of
new
apps.
iOS.
Sure, yeah. The quality of apps is generally considered to be better on iOS compared to Android. But the bar is no longer so high on the iPhone side that it's a problem for Android users. It's more or less fine. And you're not
Yeah.
going to be disappointed going from one or the other now. And so Apple really lost that edge they had in regards to the software because Android OEMs caught up. And now it's all now everyone differentiates with hardware, right? And that's why foldables appealed to me so much because that's the only area
Sure.
really that we've seen any innovation in smartphones over the last half a decade. And now suddenly we're getting these super thin slab phones, and those are the first slab phones I've really looked at in a while, where I've gone, oh, actually, I'd like those. Those are nice. That's something different. I'm liking what I see there, and so that's probably why I'm mostly interested in the iPhone 17 Air because I mean, I'm so we're going to talk about the Duo later in the show, but I still use the first Surface Duo as my work phone. It has all my Google apps set up because we use G Suite for work, so it has all that set up, does all my email, does all of the work stuff. But it is 5 years old. The battery life in it is not great anymore. And the version of Android it's running is, I think, 5 or 6 versions old now. And so it is time to start looking for a newer work phone. And I'm thinking this iPhone Air is probably going to replace my Duo as my work phone. And, this isn't bad news. Like the Duo's out of support. It's been dead for a long time. It's done its job. It's done a great job at that, I might add. But yeah, I think that's probably why I'm interested in the Air more than anything else.
Yeah, there's like I can sum up what you're saying. It's a novelty. There's a novelty-ness to it of the experience of having what would arguably be a super thin, something that feels different in your hand, and it's Apple hardware, so it's going to just look and feel awesome, right, to use. And I'm sure, yeah, as a basic smartphone, to be fair, even for myself, it probably would be fine. Like that's technically the phone I could use the most, right? But I don't have a Fold 7. Like there's like no way. Like why would I got, 3 solid lenses on this thing. It folds. I have a whole tablet experience. I use that tablet experience a lot. In fact, I did buy the Thinborn carbon fiber case, which is the most expensive case I've ever bought for a phone. It's $80. But it's made from like the really high quality carbon fiber, and it's like super thin. But it's cool because it has 2 parts to it. So there's a piece for the front, which means now it's way easier to open. Like and plus it has the MagSafe on the back, and so I put one of the pop sockets on it and stuff like that.
And I would say that the Fold 7 and the S25 Ultra are still the best phones to buy if you're a Microsoft ecosystem user. Like they are just the best phones. If you want to use
because Pixel
and OneDrive, they're the best.
Yeah, Pixel's my main issue with the Pixel is a simple thing. Actually, it's their launcher. You can't change the search bar.
I know that drives me, and the stupid thing at the top as well. I hate it. That is the biggest annoyance.
So yeah, whenever I get a Pixel, I have to use a separate launcher. And yeah, that's another reason I don't really like using Pixels anymore. But anyway, that's the iPhone stuff. I don't know. I guess we'll return in a couple of weeks and see if Zach actually did purchase that. I know you probably will. Whether you keep
I'm 50-50. I'm not 100% committed yet. So
it is $1,000. That is that's not pocket change.
No, it isn't. Absolutely not. Right. Shall we move on and talk about some Windows stuff for the Windows Central podcast? So not too much going on in the world of Windows in the last few weeks. Unfortunately, it's shaping up to be a very quiet fall for Windows. Usually we get a big, feature update and some new features arrive. But, it's starting to look like that we're actually not getting much of anything this fall that we don't already know about. So this week, Microsoft finally released the ISOs for version 25H2 in the Insider program. Now, I saw there was some confusion online about what these ISOs were. Some people were saying, oh, this is just, an ISO for the preview builds. This isn't the actual, the stuff that will be generally available. Here's what I'll say about that. The ISO that you download from the Insider website now is production ready. It's production signed. If you installed it on a non-Insider PC, you wouldn't be forced to sign in with an Insider account. You don't have to enroll in the Insider program, and that install will be serviced every month with production updates going forward. So if you wanted to move ahead to 25H2 using that ISO today, you could on a production PC and you would be fine. And what this basically means is 25H2 is just about ready. This is quite literally the last hurdle before general availability. They're now testing the final media, and once the media is deemed good enough, which we know it will be, it will begin rolling out. Likely, I said this before, probably later this month or early next month through Windows Update. But you don't have to wait for that. If you want to use the ISO media, you can install it as an in-place upgrade today. Or if you want to install it as a clean install on a PC, you can use that same media and create a USB key and go ahead and do it that way as well. As we've already discussed, no new features on top of 24H2. Everything that you have been using up until now, it remains the same on 25H2. And that's because both versions share the same platform release and they're serviced the same and updated the same. Any feature Microsoft builds for 25H2 also applies to 24H2 and vice versa. So there will, at least for the first few months of 25H2 being on the market, there will be no feature differences. That may change as we move into 2026 and 24H2 slowly falls out of support, but that's a conversation for later down the line. So that's basically all the stuff there in regards to the top level 25H2 news. There was a new Canary channel build this week. I believe there were 2, but there's nothing in them. There's basically just they're more catch-up builds. They released one today. Oh, sorry, they've actually released. Oh no, it was released preview. Never mind. Ignore that. Yep. So they released a new Canary build 27943, which just has some fixes in it. Really, not much going on there. And then they also they released another Canary build earlier this week, which was interesting. But this is the catch-up build. So this is what I've been saying in regards to Canary. They've been playing catch-up in the last few weeks, and this is a continuation of that. So things like AI actions in File Explorer, the time and seconds in the calendar flyout from the system tray, recent activity in the for text and image generation, the privacy area of the settings app. That's all now in the Canary channel. So if you're somebody who is stuck in the Canary channel, unfortunately, you are slowly getting the features that have been in testing in dev and beta for a while now, which is nice to see. The other thing is dark mode updates. So I think we've mentioned this on the podcast before, but it does look like Microsoft is finally sort of getting around to updating more of the legacy UI areas of Windows with dark mode. Things like the file copy dialog and file deletion and file security permission pop-ups currently don't have dark theme. So when you're running in dark mode and you go to copy a big file, you'll get blinded by a white copy dialog that pops up in front of the dark file explorer interface. They're finally fixing that, and this week it was discovered that they're actually going to change the color of that sort of detailed file progression bar. If you press expand as a file is being copied, it will show you the amount, the speed in which it's going. And that they're changing that color as well. They're currently in the build, it's blue, which matches the Windows 11 aesthetic much nicer than the green. For those who don't know, by the way, that green color was chosen back in 2011, I want to say 2012, and it's stuck. They haven't touched it since which I think it debuted with Windows 8. So it's been that long since they've touched this interface. So they're finally getting around to updating it with a dark theme, and they're changing the color of it to make it more easy on the eye when you're using dark mode, which is nice. It would be cool to see them make it like just reflects your system accent color. I feel like the system accent color thing in Windows gets really just ignored by Microsoft and most apps. Actually, you set it, and yeah, you see it in some areas, but like it's just mostly you just don't see it. It's like, yeah, okay, cool. So hopefully, maybe they can add that in the future as well. So that's pretty much it in regards to the insider stuff and 25H2. There was a Patch Tuesday update this week, which was released on Tuesday, what was Tuesday? It was September the 9th. And this is the update that brought with it improvements to things like Windows Recall. They've now got that new homepage in the Recall app if you've got a Copilot Plus PC, which gives you like an overview of your most recent snapshots and whatnot. And they've also got an update to Click to Do, which now has a tutorial in it. The taskbar, the larger clock with seconds, is now back in the notification center. That's now shipping with the latest Patch Tuesday update. The dividers in context menus now separate top-level icons in the File Explorer context menu, and so on and so on. So, the improved Windows Hello experience is also part of this update. So that's actually quite a big one. They've updated the UI for Windows Hello when it pops up when you need to authenticate. They've given it a facelift, and it looks a little much cleaner and all of that good stuff.
Time. I'm getting tired of kind of the Windows Hello screen.
Yeah. This new one,
it needs a facelift, right?
Yeah, it does. This new one is nice, so I'm glad to see that there. And also the agent in settings is now rolling out on AMD and Intel powered Copilot Plus PCs as well. So that's cool. There's a few other stuff in this update, but those are the sort of highlights, at least to me. So that's Windows itself. The Microsoft Store has also been in the news this week because Microsoft has finally dropped the fees that they were charging individual developers for submitting apps into the store. They announced this back at Build earlier this year, I want to say, but it took a while to actually start rolling out, and it's finally here. So if you're an individual developer, and that's a key distinction there, because individual, if you're a company and you make lots of money and you're building an app for Windows and you want it in the Microsoft Store, you still have to pay a fee. But if you're an individual developer, an indie developer, if you will, I guess, you no longer have to pay a fee. It's now free to submit an app to the Microsoft Store and have it listed there for people to find and download, which is very nice. And that means in most cases, there's now no excuse for an app of your, if you use an app and you know the developer, it's a small team, you can probably tell them to start getting their app installed. Because as I've said before, the Microsoft Store is great and everybody should be using it. It's no longer the Windows Store from 2012. It's a much better app and service now. It's very stable, very fast. I get upset when an app that I want isn't in the Microsoft Store. I'm at that point. I try to source everything from the Microsoft Store, which I'm probably in the minority for still. But I would like to normalize it because I think the Microsoft Store is good. And Dan, I did want to ask you, where do you find your apps? Do you go to the Microsoft Store? Do you still download them through the web browser? How do you do it?
Yeah. Most of my stuff, yeah, I get through the store. But I mean, I
Yeah.
only have so many apps, right? So I use Slack, I use Telegram, of course, Outlook, Blue Sky. You can, of course, use the web version, but there is B Sky, which is
Mhm.
a app in the store that's under development there, which is uses all the Windows elements and looks really nice. Uh, I, of course, use the browser and Office. I don't really use many other apps anymore on my computer. It's yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, I do still appreciate being able to grab web apps through the Microsoft Store because that is a thing. You can go in and
yeah,
download, say,
Twitter.
Netflix, for example, is a web app through the Microsoft Store and it's powered by Edge, but you can source it through the Microsoft Store. So you don't have to go to, netflix.com and install as web app through the browser. You can do it through the store and it will do the same thing, which is nice. But yeah, I try my best to get everything from the Microsoft Store because I just like going to one place where everything gets updated. I hit one button, and if there's an update available for an app, it will just go and download and install it for me. I don't have to open each individual app and check for an update within the client itself. I could just let the Microsoft Store deal with it. And usually it's automatic, it happens in the background, which is also really, really nice. So yeah, those are the sort of updates in regards to Windows. I don't think there's anything else too much going on there, unfortunately. We'll keep you updated, of course, when 25H2 starts rolling out officially. That should be in the coming weeks. Let's move on to another topic. Let's talk about Microsoft employees. Let's talk about the fact that they are being forced to go back to the office. I'm curious if you have any
Kind
strong
of.
thoughts on this, Dan. Yeah, kind of. So I'll give a brief overview, then we can sort of discuss it.
Yeah.
But Microsoft is essentially mandating a return to the office gradually and slowly. So they've announced today that if you're an Microsoft employee in a certain area, starting February next year, you will be expected to be in the office 3 days a week, 3 out of 5 days. You have to be within 50 miles of an office, I believe, in wherever the area is. I think it's Puget Sound, and then that will be expanding to other US locations after February next year, and then that will be launching outside the US likely later in 2026 or into 2027. And so this is interesting because I believe, as far as I'm aware, Microsoft is probably the last or one of the last tech companies to do this. Everybody else already did this ages ago. Apple did it, Google did it, Amazon did it, Meta. They've all been sort of I believe, and anyway, they've been sort of mandating a return to the office for a while. Microsoft held off for as long as it could because obviously Microsoft became the sort of work from home champion in regards to Teams and Office, and they were very pushing it, and it was making them loads of money. And so it would have been quite, hypocritical for them to try and force their own employees back into the office while telling everyone, no, it's okay to work from home. Teams is there for you, Office is there for you. But now that's sort of died down, obviously, and the pandemic's well and truly over at this point. And Microsoft is now like, it turns out working from Teams sucks. Everybody should be back in the office 3 days a week. So, Dan, I'm curious on your thoughts on this. Do you think this is fair? Do you think this is right? Do you think there'll be pushback?
There's no pushback anymore because there's,
Yeah.
Microsoft just been laying off people. So it's, we're turning to a job environment right now where the workers don't have much leverage, whereas during the pandemic they did. So, that's almost irrelevant. What do I think about? I think hybrid work is the best solution. There is value for having meetings in person, seeing people in person, and being able to do things in person. But I think there's also value of working from home. Technically, a lot of us who work from home work longer hours than our office hours because we need to get stuff done, and we can, or we can multitask and do home stuff while working as well. But I think, the question for me is like, do you have to go in 2 days a week or 3 days a week, right? I think it's one of those. You know, and this is for people who live in with 50 miles of like
That's
the
right.
office.
Yeah, it's 3 days a week within 50 miles of an office in the Puget Sound area,
Yeah,
rolling out to more
I,
locations over
I
time.
could see some arguing that they would prefer just to come in 2 days a week, but I
Yeah,
don't think that's a heavy ask to. I listen, it's still better than it was, like versus
yeah,
going 5 days a week into the office. If you could spend 2 days working from home and 2 days with your days off, like that itself is a major improvement in worker
yeah.
conditions, I would say.
I,
Like
I've
I still can't, you and I have been working remote for a very long time.
Yeah.
Me since 2012, 2013. Like the idea of like driving to work and sitting in traffic, like,
Yeah.
we're very fortunate not to have that. And our company is one of these companies too. Like, we should be clear about this. Future doesn't really like remote workers either.
Yeah.
uh, so they have offices in New York City and Bath and London. And when they put out a lot of job applications, a lot of times it's for in-person jobs where you would go into those places for work versus a remote position. So and we always argue about it because it's like, well, a lot of times this is the argument, is that these companies own property or they're leasing property,
Yeah.
office space. And if it's not being used, they're losing money. So you could make the argument of like, well, why don't, switch to a different building and all this kind of stuff? Well, for one, Microsoft can't because they own the campus, right?
Right.
Yeah,
So they
it's
just
just
also
like,
spent millions on refurbishing it and
right. Yeah, totally. And so like, and we know like our company, it's just like having the presence in New York City, the advertising capital of the world, uh, and also like the news center, for them not to have a physical office there. It's sort of like you're supposed to have a physical
Yeah.
office, right?
Yeah.
And you're supposed to have a presence there. That's to show you're like legit. So there's a lot of factors in play here, and employees are kind of caught up in it. But listen, if you're an employee, I would still say being able to work from home 2 days a week is still pretty awesome.
I was going to say, like, Monday and Friday at home, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the office, I think is perfectly fine, and it's probably
Sure.
ideal because it does give you both the best of both worlds. It gives you that flexibility to work at home, and you have the Monday and the Friday to sort of do that, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's when you can plan all your team meetings and do whatever you need to do collaboratively. And obviously, every job's different, but I'm just thinking it in regards to what we do at Windows Central. Like, it probably would be quite helpful if we did all live in the local area and have an office to go to 3 days a week, because we would be more productive collaboratively in those spaces, versus getting on a Google Hangout or a Teams meeting and chatting on there. I do think if you're doing a meeting, it does make sense to be in person. The problem I think a lot of people face now, especially Microsoft employees, is during the pandemic, a lot of people moved away. They're like, we're all remote now. This is never going to change. Let's go live 150 miles away in some other place that's cheaper and nice. And so now Microsoft is mandating a return to the office. So some of those people are probably going to be in a tough spot because now, what are they going to do? Are they going to move back? Are they going to have to go to a newer, closer office? Or if there isn't a close office, do they get to stay remote, or is their job at risk? Like, are they at risk of losing their job for being too far away? Like, those are the questions I think that Microsoft, or at least Microsoft employees, are going to have to figure out with their employer over the next year. So that's super interesting. But yeah, that's basically the story. There's not much more to say about it. Microsoft is finally admitting that Teams sucks, and it's to read between the lines, is what they're saying. And so, with that, actually, we should on the vein, the same.
But
Vein
what about the
Teams,
metaverse? I thought that was supposed to save us.
yeah, right. Yeah. On the same vein as Teams, Microsoft, the EU. So real quick, this is on the antitrust stuff that Microsoft was facing in the EU in regards to bundling Teams with Office. It has come out now. Microsoft has confirmed that, the EU has told Microsoft that they need to do this. They will be unbundling Teams from Office, Microsoft Office. And so this is all to do with Slack. Slack was upset in 2021, or maybe slightly earlier than that. They were saying, hey, we think it's unfair. They have a competitive advantage. Slack was number one. We were doing the best. And suddenly Teams came out and, because they bundled it as a free inclusion with Office 365, all these enterprises just decided to go and use that instead. And we lost out on loads of business. We don't think it's fair that Microsoft was allowed to do that. And the EU has come out and gone, yep, we agree. And so now Microsoft is being forced to unbundle Teams from Office 365. Microsoft has to charge an additional amount for enterprises who want to use Teams as part of Office 365. They are no longer allowed to include it for free. That's the story. Dan, do you have any thoughts on this? I think it's silly, frankly, but
So, I mean, my thoughts are like, it's obviously not great for Microsoft, and it's great for Slack. And, they did have an unfair advantage. For those who don't remember how this worked, was Slack was out for a few years. Microsoft came out, created Teams, and then they bundled it for free with their subscriptions to enterprise, meaning if you worked in IT, you turned on your computer one day, all of a sudden you had an option to deploy Teams to all the computers, and there you go. And the system, this Teams, would be tied into all your other products.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in IT, this is easy peasy setup, and it costs $0 to do. Why would you go pay for a corporate Slack license when you can do that? And you can argue to your faces blue that, well, Teams is annoying and not as good as Slack, and it wouldn't matter because it's $0. It doesn't, any company would be like, yeah, but we don't want to pay, $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month for Slack when we can just get $0 and use Teams. So tell the employees to suck it up, right? That's pretty sure what happens. So now they can't do that. They have to, the fact that they have to sell a version of Microsoft 365 and Windows 365 cheaper without Teams is going to really undercut that model, right? Because now companies could save money, and that saved money then can go to pay for licenses for whatever they want. Maybe it's Slack, maybe it's Teams, maybe it's whatever other system they want to use. So I think it's a good decision, because we do joke about how Teams, people hate it, it sucks, whatever. But if that is true and that sentiment is accurate, then Microsoft needs to win not on the value proposition of it being free, but it needs to win on features and the fact that people enjoy using it, right? And that's a tougher bar, but that's what they should be working towards. Listen, I'm sure they are. I don't think the Microsoft team for Teams is sitting there like, how can we make life miserable? Like, they're trying to make it an enjoyable experience for people, right? So there's not that, but they need to obviously get a little bit more focused and making sure that it's not becoming a joke for people to use. So yeah, I think it's a great decision.
Yeah, another change that's part of this is that the EU is mandating that Teams users or companies using Teams in the EU will Microsoft has to make it so they can export their Teams data to a rival platform. So it's sort of interoperability there. So if a company does choose, hey, actually, we don't want to pay for Teams, we're going to move to this lower cost tier without Teams, and we're going to move to Slack, there needs to be an option to allow these companies to transfer that data from Teams to Slack. So that's part of this as well. So in the EU, essentially, they're trying to make it easier to transfer away from Teams if a company has felt like they were being forced to use it because it came bundled. I do think it's really interesting how this is how people have viewed it. When I feel like, and maybe this was Microsoft being competitive and trying to give themselves an edge. But usually when you look at a company, it goes, "Hey, we're adding a new feature to our subscription for free." Usually it's celebrated. It's go, "Yeah, here's Teams. It's free. It's part of the stuff you're already paying for." Like, yeah, that's great. But in this instance, it was going, "No, you can't do that. You have to charge more. You have to charge us for this. It's not fair." So everybody wins in this case. Microsoft has done it in a very smart way, though. So if you're an enterprise who is subscribed to Office 365, nothing really changes. You can keep paying and Teams will be included. You have to move to a slightly altered tier. Oh, I've just hit my mic. Sorry. A slightly altered tier, which is slightly cheaper per user, but it doesn't include Teams. So you do have to make a manual transition. If you just leave things as they are, you will keep paying for Teams and you'll keep using Teams. And so it's not that Microsoft is unbundling Teams from every existing subscription. The current subscription stays the same. It's just that they're introducing a new subscription that does have it unbundled with a slightly cheaper price on it if you want to use that. So if you're a new company, it makes sense to maybe consider that. But if you've been using Teams for years as part of your company, or you are an IT admin at a company that has been doing this, unless your management's trying to cut costs everywhere, it probably doesn't make sense to make any changes there. So that's the news around Teams. On a similar length to that as well, Outlook Lite. For those who don't know what Outlook Lite is, Outlook Lite was well, it's in the name. It's a light version of Outlook. But more specifically, it's a web-based version of Outlook for Android, which is hilarious when you consider the Windows app is web-based now. But for a little while there was the same app, basically, a web view version of Outlook, but it ran on Android. and maybe it was on iOS as well. It's definitely on Android, and it was designed for low-cost phones. It was, lower-powered phones. It was first, it was only available in certain regions, developing markets, and then slowly but surely, it actually became available everywhere. So if you wanted to use Outlook Lite, you could, and it actually had some interesting additions over the main Outlook client, including the ability to handle SMS notes, texts, and whatnot. So you could set it as your default SMS client on Android, and you could use it to send text messages using cellular connectivity, in addition to handling your calendar and email like Outlook normally can. So that was a very interesting addition. I believe they had some special spam and junk filtering as well on the SMS side. So that was certainly a curious addition to Outlook Lite. But Microsoft has announced this week that Outlook Lite is being killed off. I suspect that's because they want everybody to go over to use the main Outlook client. / I'm not certain many people were using Outlook Lite to begin with, but yeah, if you are somebody who was using Outlook Lite, that will stop functioning in 2026, I believe. It's still available to download now. Like, I downloaded it just a day ago to see if it's still working. It does still work. Microsoft says it will stop being available, I believe, later this year or early next year. But they haven't said when functionality will stop, so it might still work for a while after that. But yeah, I reckon your time will be limited if you are somebody who is using Outlook Lite. Dan, did you ever try Outlook Lite?
No,
No.
maybe once. I think, like, when it first came out, maybe I downloaded it just to see what the big deal was. But obviously, I'm not really concerned about data. I mean, it was nice. It does launch faster, right? It's a quicker, more stripped down app with less graphics on board. Yeah, I mean, it worked well enough. The idea that, well, that product, we know Outlook for years now has been shifting to a web-based hybrid kind of model. So all their apps, except for Mac OS apparently, and this app, were off in their own world, maintained separately with different code. And I guess they just hit a point where they're like, all right, listen, we're not going to continue maintaining this app. It doesn't fit in with the larger mission that they're doing.
Yeah, I do find it funny because it is technically a web app, but I'm guessing that additional SMS stuff did require more work on top of whatever the web team was already doing. And I'm assuming it's the same on Windows. Like, yeah, the Windows app is technically a web app, but there's a lot of integrations. There's hooks into Windows that client handles, which the website obviously doesn't. And so while the interface itself is web-based, there's probably a lot of functionality behind the scenes that is more native to the platform that it runs on. And so, yeah, I'm not surprised that Outlook Lite is unfortunately being killed off, but it is what it is. Let's talk about Surface Duo, because that obviously we can't let go of the past, and the Surface Duo is going to be a device that sticks with us, I think, forever. Yesterday, I believe it was, September 10th, marked the 5-year anniversary of Surface Duo's general availability. On September 10, 2020, the first Surface Duos began arriving at those poor souls' houses who pre-ordered it. And the rest is history. It's actually crazy to think that it's been 5 years, like half a decade. It doesn't feel that way. It's to me, the whole Surface Duo debacle was 2-3 years ago, but no, it was half a decade ago. And I figured this would be a good opportunity, I guess, to sort of talk about and reflect on just the poor job Microsoft did at, I guess, trying to keep this alive. I wrote an editorial this week, just sort of highlighting, what went wrong? Why did this go so wrong? Why don't we have a Surface Duo 4 and a Surface Duo 5 and other Surface mobiles at this point? And I think if we cast our minds back, it's easy to forget this now, but when the Surface Duo launched, it was in a rough spot. The software was not great. There were a lot of issues with the software. It was very clearly Microsoft's first Android phone, and I think they were sort of taken by surprise at is that right? Taken by surprise? Yeah, taken by surprise at how complicated it was going to be to actually put together a piece of software on top of Android that adhered to the form factor and ran well. And, the device launched and it was buggy. It would crash a lot. I remember having to restart the device at least once a day because something had happened where the UI would stop functioning, or an app was overlaying another app and I couldn't get it to move, or the camera wouldn't work properly, or you'd do the thing where you'd open the device and you'd have to tap the screen, but then it would be the wrong way round. There were a lot of ergonomic issues with it. And a lot of these problems were not solved for months and months. I would say it probably took about 6 or 7 months from the device being made available in September 2020 before the software started being daily drivable for a normal non-tech person. And even then, some of the issues were never fully addressed. Things like on the original Surface Duo, this is the touch responsiveness. Remember, Dan, typing on the Surface Duo was tough because for whatever reason, there was some issue with the touch sensitivity or the touch digitizer.
Right.
There was something where if you were trying to type fast on the Surface Duo, it couldn't keep up. You would make spelling mistakes because it wasn't registering all the taps you were making. And to this day, that is still an issue on the Surface Duo. It has improved, but I suspect that there was a hardware defect that was just not addressable with software. Not a defect, but maybe a hardware design choice that just couldn't be worked around with software. And so it was never addressed, never fully addressed on the Surface Duo 1. It was fixed, more or less, on the Surface Duo 2. But the Duo 1 never got that fixed with software. And yeah, that remains the case to this day. So there were a lot of issues, a lot of teething problems. The fact that it also launched at $1,400 from a company that has had a poor track record in making phones. It just sort of came together as a perfect storm for failure. The questionable form factor, questionable company, and I fully believe that because of how Surface Duo launched and because who it was that was making it, Microsoft, that killed the whole product category. Not just Duo, but Neo and dual screen computers in themselves. I think that if you cast your mind back to 2019 when Microsoft announced the Duo and Neo, they sort of announced it as part of this bigger picture. Like, we foresee dual screen computing as the next category. Like, they made a bold statement there, as if like the whole Windows market, the ecosystem was going to jump on board and be part of this. And then it never happened. And I think, with hindsight, you can blame the launch of the Duo for that. The fact that it came out in such a poor state, and all the if you go back and watch the reviews, a lot of them are quite forgiving, given a lot of the issues that this device did have. I think that this is the device that killed the Neo. Honestly, I think had the Duo launched and been received well and sold lots of numbers and the software wasn't bad, I think we probably would have seen the Neo eventually come out. If it wasn't running 10x, it would have run Windows 11 or just some full version of Windows. I don't see why they couldn't have done that. But they pushed on the brakes when it became apparent that it turns out a lot of people don't like the form factor. But I don't think it was the form factor's fault. I think it was the software. And I'm curious on your thoughts on this, Dan. Do you agree with that? Do you think there was anything Microsoft could have done differently to increase their chances of success, or was this always going to be the case?
The form factor was definitely always a challenge. Even if it did work well, some people conceptually didn't understand the value of two screens.
Yeah.
Which to me, I think I even wrote an article about it, how it's like, it's not any different than having two PC screens. A lot of us, I have two displays on my desk. It's like, why? Well, it's more space to work with. I like having apps side by side so I can be looking at both at the same time. Like, it was just conceptually kind of weird that some people didn't understand the value to it, because I sure did. As someone who's jumping between multiple apps all the time and sharing data and copying things, like, it was a great device for that. But what didn't help, of course, was, all the software bugs out the gate were pretty rough, and reviewers weren't, tolerant of it. The weak camera didn't help, unfortunately. If your camera's not good, it can kill the phone. Ask Razer, right? Razer had a really cool gaming phone that they made that was very much in the design aesthetic of their brand. Had awesome speakers, a really impressive display, and the camera was fine. It was a fine camera, but it wasn't a good camera compared to what was already out there. And that stuff kind of kills it for people. I think it's really difficult to release a product that just has an okay camera on it. I mean, we were just talking about with the folding devices. That was an issue with folding devices for a long time. They had to do some severe compromises on the camera, and they just weren't that good. We're getting past that point now, but back then, just having one camera on the back, or no camera on the back, I should say, and then going on the Duo 2 with the 2, it just wasn't enough for, we're coming out with phones with 3 and 5 camera lenses on them. I don't know. it's such a great device, but it would have always remained a niche device, you know.
Yeah, and it does feel like Microsoft is afraid of that. Like they don't want to build niche devices anymore. I do think that was
Yeah,
definitely a Panos thing. Like Panos clearly was okay with it, and it's like, yeah, this thing will only sell 10 units, but we want to build it anyway. With
yeah,
Panos gone, there's no longer somebody there to fight for that. You know, everybody who it feels like everybody who's there now on the server team or the senior leadership team above them, they want everything to be have a purpose, have a point. Like it's not just because it can't just being niche isn't the selling point. It has to be more than that. It has to have goals. It has to have aspirations in regards to how many can we sell. This is going to make us money, and that I think kills all of the innovation that Microsoft was able to do in regards to things like the Surface Duo. Like the hardware, even to this day, is phenomenal. The hinges are still incredible. It's still so thin and it just is like there is still no device like it. This and the Duo 2 are in their own category when it comes to phones. So let's call them phones because that's basically what they are. They are incredible, and I do wish that Microsoft maybe could have expanded into doing a slab phone to try and maybe keep the keep the phone business afloat because clearly
yeah.
just doing the dual screen on its own, it wasn't working. Had they gone and just made a sort of mainstream phone, basically just take one of the screens off around the corners, and there you go. They should have just done that, and that could have been the device that keeps the phone part afloat while the rest of the team experiments with Duo 2, Duo 3, and beyond. The Duo 2 came out, and I do think that the Duo 2 is a better Duo. Like the Duo 1, the form factor and the thinness and the slimness is great, but the Duo 2 is a better phone overall. I think the
Yeah.
Duo 1 is clearly still supposed to, we all know the history. It was supposed to run Windows. It was supposed to be this companion device. It did have a cellular. You could make calls on it, but it was sort of supposed to be used in conjunction with another phone / a computer. With Duo 2, it's very clearly straight up a phone. It's got triple camera sensor on the back, but way better screens, 5G, NFC, all the stuff you need from a phone. And the Duo 2 I adored the Duo 2. I thought it was, all of the issues
It was
people
a
had.
massive leap from
It
the
was.
first one, and it
It
wasn't
was.
released that much longer after.
No, it was. Yeah, it was like within a year, and they addressed basically every. It's almost like they knew before the Duo 1 came out that what they
Right.
needed to fix, and
Yeah.
started work on that before they even started shipping the Duo 1. So when the Duo 2 came out, it basically addressed all of those issues. Even the software was in a better state. I know people at the time and reviewers still call it buggy, but it wasn't that bad. It was fine.
Yeah.
There have been iPhones that have released with buggier software. Yeah, it was great. And unfortunately, I think the damage at that point had been done. And also if we always forget, but the Duo 2 launched at $100 more than the Duo 1, which was a big ask. I think $1,500 was a big number.
Which was funny too, because people were complaining about the price back then, $14.99, $15.99, which isn't cheap, no doubt about it. But people are like, they're never going to sell. Meanwhile, Samsung was there, like $17.99 for our Fold,
Yeah.
and everybody's like, yeah, but Samsung's going to, eventually lower the price and all this. And it's just like, since that time, the Fold went up $200. It is now $2,000. It's like it didn't get cheaper.
Yeah.
So that industry is kind of strange. Yeah, and as I was saying on Twitter, that was the Duo, and Duo 2 was the last really fun time I had in technology. Like, don't get me wrong, I loved the new Snapdragon chips in PC. For me is a game changer, right? The new PCs are better than ever. Like I'm enjoying that stuff. But that device was the first to get me to rethink how you use information on the go and how to get work done. And we don't have that really much anymore. Okay, I mean, the Fold 7, you and I gush about it, and it is. I think the Fold 7 is absolutely amazing, but it's the Fold 7. It's not, I've had 6 iterations to get used to the concept of what a folding tablet in my pocket could be like, right? So there's no newness there that is getting me to rethink things. I'm just enjoying the experience now, which is great. We've always said the Fold 7 is sort of like, basically the Fold 7 is like the Surface Pro 4. It's like the moment where it came into its own, all the pieces came together. This is what people want and can use. Duo, I think, could have gotten there eventually, but they didn't. They didn't want to stick with it, which is had they just lasted a little longer and the AI thing, and that was kind of the problem where like Apple benefits from that ecosystem where their phone clearly operates well with their computers and tablets, right?
Yeah.
And this, like, it just integrates. They could have had their teams been more aligned. The Duo could have been like this extension of your laptop or desktop PC in a way that no other Android phone could have done, right? They could have done that if it was a Windows-based device like originally conceived of, right? Then they could have really doubled down on that. But that's what would have been really needed, is this idea that the Duo is an extension of your current PC and does things that your other devices can't do, you can't buy in the market, and that's the value there. And if people would have seen that, I think it would have given an argument to have it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I really enjoyed using it. I enjoyed carrying it around. It was the last exciting hardware we've
Yeah.
seen. Now we
Yeah.
got to talk about like then we have an Apple has a thin phone out now. It's just like I was telling you, I was on that Schwab. I was just like, didn't we do this like 15 years ago with the Razor, the
Yeah.
Motorola Razor, and I don't know. It's just like it's also kind of funny that they released a really fat phone and then they're like, oh, here's a really thin one to make up for it, right? It's just like because there's going to be some dude who's going to buy both,
Yeah.
and it's going to be like, well, the big one's my weekday phone,
Yeah,
and
right.
the thin one's my weekend phone. It's just like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird times. It's boring. Michael Fisher, Mr. Mobile. Uh, that's why he likes folding phones, because it's really the only exciting thing that's happening in these devices these days.
You know what my favorite thing is? My favorite thing is people online who go, I don't understand the point of a fold. Like,
oh, that is still the most infuriating thing.
it's
Like, if you
ridiculous.
can't see the
What do you
value,
mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
like especially because the folds displays keep getting bigger,
Yeah.
but the phone itself doesn't get much bigger, right?
So you
And
mean you
now they're
don't want an
coming out,
iPad mini in your pocket? Like, what are you saying here?
right?
How can you not see
Yeah,
the value?
wait till they come out the triple fold, right?
Yeah, oh
Um,
god, I'm so excited. Yeah, is the
but yeah,
Samsung rumored to be doing one this year, but only in
oh
like
yeah, no,
green?
it's not even rumored. They've admitted they have it. They said it's even ready. I think they're holding back. I think they don't know how the market would respond to it, how many they would sell.
Yeah.
Like there's some questions around it, but as far as I know, it's basically done. You can go find videos of it online and stuff like that. But they may want to be, if they were smart, they would have do what they're doing, release the Fold 7, get feedback from people, and make sure that whatever is wrong with that phone can be addressed sort of in that one, right? That
Yeah.
they're not making the same mistakes, because the Fold 7 was such a radical shift from them. But yeah, I mean, 3 folding screens. I mean, hell yeah, right? I mean, this is at least like different stuff. But being able to, when I'm at the vet or waiting at the airport, just opening that display and just getting that
Yeah.
larger screen, um, it's just such a better experience. And I'm not one for gaming on Android phones, but I have downloaded a couple video games here and there,
Nice.
and playing on that thing is awesome.
Yeah.
That screen is massive, and it's.
Yeah.
I also like typing on it better. I really like typing. I prefer typing on the Fold 7 with the display open.
Really nice.
Yeah. So
I
I
find
don't know.
web browsing way better on the big screen, and I find reading emails amazing on the big screen. Like that, those
Mhm.
are the two sort of killer reasons to get a foldable for me.
Or
But
showing someone video looks cool.
yeah, video is good as well. I don't really watch much video on my phone. I'm one of those weirdos who,
Same.
who just watches. If I want to watch
Yeah, I
YouTube,
don't
I'm
get
gonna
people
watch
who watch
TV.
Netflix
Yeah, I just don't
series
get
on
it.
their phones. It's
I
weird.
don't get it. Yeah, I will say, and we have mentioned this before, but just to cap off the Surface Duo talk, I guess, I do still believe that Microsoft was right about dual screen. I know, people are sort of speculating at the time, and the only reason they did dual screens because they couldn't figure out foldable screen. Microsoft's argument was, no, we did the research and we found that people
Yeah,
actually find dual screen more productive. They find it more capable, they can do more stuff with it. It's more ergonomic, it's more natural to the user. I still fully believe that's the case. While
sure.
yes, the Galaxy Fold 7 can technically do everything the Surface Duo could, it doesn't do a lot of it as well. Like I don't multitask on the Fold 7 ever,
100%.
really. ever.
Yes,
Yeah.
agree.
I,
Yeah, the
I
majority of the time it's a mono screen when
yeah,
it's open,
it's
one
just a
app at a
big
time,
phone app on an 8-inch screen. Whereas
because
on the
it's extra
Duo, I would
steps.
have two
Yeah.
apps running all the time. I'd be doing
Yes.
just stuff. It'd be great, and it was so just automatic. It was fluid. You didn't even have to think about it. You click a link in one app, and it would open a browser in the other on the other screen, and you
Yes.
wouldn't even you wouldn't notice. It just did it, and then you move back to a single screen phone. You go, oh, this feels really weird. Why did
It
that
feels
take over the whole
cramped.
screen? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, 100% agree. I don't use the fold to its I will split the screen on occasion, but it
hmm
is like a
I
little bit of an
remember.
extra step. You gotta
Yeah,
tap and yeah, you gotta remember, you gotta do it. It's like it feels different. Whereas when you have two separate screens, yeah, you can open an app on there, leave it open, and then go do something else. It's literally multitasking, uh, just like having two computers in front of
hmm
you.
yeah.
Yeah, it was I agree. Yeah. Um,
So yeah,
oh,
that's that really. The Surface Duo, 5 years old. I guess my my last remark is I wish somebody else made the Duo instead. Like if Samsung had done it, we'd probably be on the Duo 7 by now. It's just
oh
that
yeah,
it's
totally.
Microsoft. Microsoft just can't see a sure thing through. They just I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it was and it was a big ask, right? I mean, the idea that like, "Hi, we're Microsoft. We never made an Android phone, but we're gonna make one now,
And
and
it's
we're going to
super
do
weird.
something that it wasn't meant to do at 2 screens." Like, they had to, like, do a lot of plugging and manipulation to kinda get it to where like, that wasn't an easy challenge. Like, the easy
Uh,
route would have been like, "Alright, we're gonna release a single screen Android phone," and then build off of that and add a
Maybe
second
they
screen.
should have.
They
Maybe that
probably
should have been
should
the way
have.
they did. Yeah.
But then I think the argument would have been it would have been harder also with a single screen because then how do you really differentiate yourself? Although they probably could have, it would have had that surface flare. I
Yeah.
feel like, they would have had that design aesthetic, but I guarantee you the camera would still have been the weak spot.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
People would still
I mean,
complain about it.
obviously, they did have the Nokia tech from back when Lumia was a thing, and those cameras were great for their time. But how would that have translated to a Surface-made Android phone? Probably not well. And
Yeah,
to be
if you're
fair,
not constantly developing your camera technology, you
yeah,
can't
yeah,
just return to old stuff from a couple of years ago, dig in the closet, be like,
right,
we got this.
yeah.
you know,
I will say the cameras on the Duo 2 were good. I'd say they were good. Like they
yeah,
weren't the best, but they were good, and I was never
yeah, I
upset
agree.
with the performance of them. So I guess there was an opportunity
It
there
was
for them to
fun to
improve
take
that.
photos on that thing too.
It was. It really was. Yeah. It had it's basically its own tripod, which was nice.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Oh man, now I'm sad.
totally. Like I said, it was the last exciting time to have a smartphone,
Yeah.
besides the where we are with folds. But
Well, R.I.P.
Microsoft's thing was they didn't want to fully commit. They're like, all
No,
right,
of course.
Surface team,
Yeah.
you 12 people can go and work on that little project and good luck. Instead they should have invested way more money into it. They should have had a long-term plan for Android in the Microsoft ecosystem,
Yeah.
and they should have been willing to eat costs for a couple of
Yes.
years,
Yeah.
just like they did with Xbox. And they should have been able to, even sell the product almost at a loss to get mass adoption of it at some point, right?
hmm
Sometimes you got to do that in order to really break into what is a very mature market. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway, I think
actually,
that
real quick.
about wraps it up for us.
No,
Eh?
just one sec. I just want to ask you one more question.
What are you doing? Playing
If
with your
yeah, sorry. If in 5 years, or let's say if
Jackie
in
still
3
around?
years' time, Microsoft
Oh, I
came.
think he crashed.
Oh, did I crash or did Dan crash? That's the question.
All right. Well, this is strange. Looks like we're going to have to wrap up the podcast now, although we were technically done anyway. So we'll give it another minute. But yeah, Zach is, I think his computer flaked out. So we're going to wrap it up. If you guys do have questions, of course, you can ask in the comments. Oh, we got Shane Craig here in comments, which is pretty cool. Shane, I just watched your latest video on the fold. I did learn some tricks there. Really good stuff. Really appreciate it. Even I don't know some of those things. But I'll stick around here if you guys have questions. Otherwise, we'll wait for Zach to return. But that wraps it up for the Windows Central podcast. You can watch us every Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern time on our YouTube channel. Follow us on social media and ask us questions there, and join us for the live chat when you can. As always, thanks for listening, and take care, everyone.
I think Dan's earbud has died without him realizing. Because I am still here, I believe.
Oh. Why can't I see Zach?
Oh, maybe
I can't hear Zach anymore.
See me. Oh. Okay, I think he's backed out. That was strange. Yeah, it's like we desynced and he was in a different alternate timeline. Hello, can you hear me? See me?
Yeah, it was the streaming service. Like
strange. Yeah, I was here the whole time. I was trying to ask you a question and you were like talking over me. Oh, okay.
No, you were frozen.
Yeah, weird. I was
You were frozen and I couldn't hear anything.
Interesting.
And
yeah.
Yeah.
That is strange.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I can ask you now. I guess it doesn't really matter. I was going to say, if in 3 or 5 years' time Microsoft comes out and they announce a new Android phone, would you even consider it?
Well, I would have to if I'm still at this job.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's the same, but like, it would be so hard. Because you
like
can't. You can't go around because the Duo was supposed to be this return. It's like, yeah, Microsoft is back. They took a break from phones, but they're back and they mean it this time. And then for them to abandon it a second time, a third time, they sort of don't deserve the benefit of the doubt, right? You have to sort of go into that thinking or saying, yeah, don't buy this phone because Microsoft has a track record. But then that's kind of like, and that's why Microsoft should never make a phone again because it's like a chicken egg situation, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep. Tough stuff.
So yeah, if any questions, please do put them in the chat. If there are no questions.
Snapdragon X Elite X1 E78100 my HP OmniBook X, less than $600 at Best Buy, open box with 1 terabyte. Damn, 16 gigs of storage. Yeah, can't go wrong there. That's a fun one. That's going to last forever. Yeah, the Snapdragon stuff is just, I don't know. I like Intel. And there's AMD. That's what I'll say about AMD. And I know a lot of people get mad about that, but AMD's benefit is more on desktop and gaming devices, and I don't use either that much. So, but the Surface Laptop 7 has still just been crushing it for me. So
same. So I do love that. I don't even feel like, unless there's any like a radical change with the Laptop 8, I'm not convinced I even need an upgrade.
Well, I kind of don't want to because I had that 50th anniversary edition.
Oh, it's true, yeah.
I'm special.
The baller thing to do would be to open it up and swap the Laptop 8 motherboard into the Laptop 7 50th chassis.
Wow.
Genius.
I wonder if that could be done.
Maybe, yeah. Depends how much they change, I guess.
Yeah. I'll send it into Microsoft. You guys do me a solid.
Have you still got that? Do you remember you have a Surface Book signed by Panos, don't you? Or you did have at one point. Have you still got it?
I still have it. Yeah. I think it's smudged a little, so it's worn off a little bit. Yeah, I still have it around.
Nice. All right. It doesn't look like there are any questions coming into the chat. So I think for that, we can probably head off. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Follow us on the socials. We'll keep you updated on when we go live. But until then, we will see you next time. Bye-bye.